Yeah, and even to touch a little bit back on something you said in the very beginning, where everybody's kind of winging it, and it is entirely an artificial farce. That's something else that people have to understand, right? Like for the most part, everybody is just still figuring it out, you know. And Steve Jobs touched on it really nicely. He goes, you know, I guess at some point during like his intellectual development, he came to this point where he realized everything around him, this whole structure of reality, was built by people no smarter than himself, and they're all doing the same thing. They're just figuring it out. So once you kind of got that, you know, and you're like, all right, nobody's more special than me. Nobody's, you know, the one, you know, if anything, like I might be the one. I have some opportunity in me, you know, being alive is this opportunity. That's how I kind of see it. Then yeah, you could do anything. It's like you make the iPhone, you know, like that's insane. That's something else too. I think the iPhone got beamed down. I think it's like some sort of alien tech or something. I think Jobs is working with the alien.
The iPhone, pretty much, I guess smartphones in general, that just opened up a whole new reality. That's like social media would be non-existent without the smartphone. I remember having a Twitter in 2009 when the smartphones were first created, and you had to wait to go home to tweet, or you had to text to 40404.
Yeah, you text the thing and it would post your tweet.
You know, like that's literally all it was. It was just text communication. But now you have communication on all sorts of levels. You know, now it's mental communication. You're communicating through images and trading and all these different things that are leveraged on top of a smartphone.
And even then, like the smartphone space and like this age of information space and the age of sharing space, it's like, it's so brand new. It's like the Wild West, you know. There's so much that's going to come from like we barely, in my opinion, begun to perceive what's going to happen. And obviously it's going to be huge, you know. Obviously like the human race is not going to be the same. But like, all right, so Gary Vee said it in this way. He was like, all right, you know, everybody says like, all right, the phones changed us. The phones changed us. But what he says is the phones exposed us, right? Like the phones just did nothing more than expose what humans really are. And they give us that opportunity to like do truly what we want, you know. And what most people want is just to kind of be brain dead, kind of scrolling shit, you know. And so it's like, it's not a bad thing or anything, but just exposed us. And what I don't think people are realizing is like the data set and the information that we're getting right now is insane. Cause like if you look at somebody like even like Andrew Carnegie, right? So like he went and got the Bessemer steel process. Like how he became a billionaire was he got this new steel process from England. So he had to get a new piece of information, bring it back to where he was in America. Then he created a steel empire, right? But if you scale that out, now we're in the internet, you know, and you can get pieces of information that are like, you know, just as novel as the Bessemer process, just with like Google searches. You know, like the amount of information that you can now string together, just like the guy was talking about, where you take 3 different product skills, you make your stack, and then you get something really crazy. Now it's like, on one hand, the data set, you can start to understand like how humans are actually thinking. You can go underneath, like on Instagram, you see an ad, go into the comments on that ad and read like 30 of the comments, and you can literally start to see how the psychologies of like these people are working. And it's like, that's insane. Imagine if Nietzsche had that, right? Imagine if Jung had that. Imagine if like Isaac Newton had what we got. It's insane. And that's what's fucking really exciting to me, is like anything could happen.
The evolution and the adaptation curve and the technological innovation curve is accelerating at this point. It's becoming an exponential curve upwards. It's not that there is no more linear trajectories anymore. And more specifically, I could pin this to always revert it back to crypto, but in traditional finance and stocks and currencies, when you're charting things, it's a linear curve. But when it comes to crypto, it's an exponential curve, and how you measure where you are on the cycle. But now you take that exponential curve and you can measure it to society on a technological software level. And then where are we on that curve? And I think we're just like at the very beginning of that curve.
No, entirely. We're entirely in the very beginning of this curve. And you know, what is reality going to look like in like 30 or 40 years? That's a weird question. And it's like kind of a scary question. And it goes against Nassim, because that's such a weird thing to predict. I can't even predict.
You can barely predict a few years.
You know, I can't even predict like how many, I walked up here with you. I should be able to predict exactly what the concrete looks like outside, but I absolutely can't, you know, I just don't have that information, you know? So I guess scaling stuff out in that far, but I have a few hopes for reality and like for humanity and what happens, the decentralized stuff, you know. And I think I want to see a lot more decentralization, not even just like, all right, there's the money stuff, but even like how towns are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Vegas's like arts district is almost just like its own town, it's like its own decentralized, centralized place inside of this city, right? But like I really hope that the rest of reality goes that way. You know, like all of our celebrities and even politicians. There's an old saying, and it's like a politician should be close enough to kick. You know, like they should be close enough that the populace that they're governing or whatever should be able to literally kick them in behind if they start to act up and be bad. But I hope people see that, and I think with crypto, they're starting to change.
That brings it. That's brought the whole decentralization phenomena to the mainstream.
Yeah, because before that, nobody was talking about decentralization. You know, even I had no idea. All right, so like if you start in crypto, like you kind of get it, you know, like, all right, we're moving money around without the government. Then like you start to see like how it really works. It's like, all right, like we are the government, but like we can't.
And we're verifying it through each other.
Literally, it's a perfect kind of system of democracy as long as nobody owns like too many nodes or whatever. But like it works really, really nicely. And then like they dealt with problems like I'm not too deep on it, but
yeah,
I remember
but like 51% attacks and forking,
and then you know, the Byzantine and
fault tolerance possible, and it has game
stuff.
theory tied in it.
It gets insane, and it's really fun. It's really, really fun.
I think we will see the decentralization adoption extend to more than just finance. But I think the way that society is progressing, one thing has remained true is that human beings, we are social creatures, and the pandemic's kind of highlighted that with mental health awareness. But the way that we're connecting, it's becoming more and more in depth, right? Like the way to connect 200 years ago was through the telegram, then it was the radio, then it was the TV, then it became the newspaper, and then it was books, and now it's social media. Yeah. And so these conversations become more finite. Then it was podcasting. So it's like, what's next? What is it? Virtual reality that gets leveraged on each other? Is it artificial reality? What is the next? Is it telepathy? Like there's so many different communicative patterns that can happen. It's just how will society leverage that on top of each other?
Entirely. And I think it's going to be really interesting, like watching how it goes forward, and especially all these different ways that people are creating, just different ways to communicate and support each other. But what I think is going to be interesting is like, there will be some sort of like with the new celebrities and like this new, to me, it's like a religion, right? Like everybody is kind of segmenting into their own religions. Like some people are becoming like I was a vegan and I was very religious about it, but like any care, you know, even like culture or like cryptocurrencies or vegan or bodybuilding.
Yeah, tribalism's coming out.
It's extreme. It's an extreme religious environment. But what I'm really excited for is like, all right, on one hand, that's okay, because I think humans are on one hand like a little bit of a religious creature. That's why we keep going to that thing, you know, making our own religions. But I'm excited for what kind of communication styles and like what the possibilities are with new religions and with new thought leaders in a sense. And like the thing is, like, you can't just follow thought leaders and stuff. Like you're gonna go wrong, you know. Not everybody knows everything, but like you touch on telepathy, and like maybe it's ways of building communication systems that border on telepathy because we understand the same things. Like even the decentralized thing is almost a telepathy because you've done enough reading on it. I've done enough reading on it. We could literally talk about. I could be like, "What do you think? You're a Byzantine general. I'm a Byzantine general, and we know what that means." Party 3 has no clue. They literally are thinking about generals or something, right? But like it becomes like a telepathy thing where like it's breaking. I don't even know how to describe it because it's like an information throughput. You know, with the telegram, you have so much speed, and you get writing so much speed. Books, you get so much speed. That social media is quick as fuck, and like what's next is like.
Yeah, that's why
breaking through almost. I don't know.
Yeah,
what's gonna happen.
People get so attached to that communicative pattern that on social media you sit there and you just keep hitting refresh, even though you're on the latest tweets and no one's tweeting. But you're like, I need more. I need more.
And that is a weird one. I don't know why that works. I think I read on the internet once that it's like something about humans. We really like new information, and then that's almost like it's like a slot machine of new info.
It's because of the amount of bits of information that we're processing, and it's something that you touched on. Like Nietzsche, he was only processing the information that was directly in front of him because that's all he had access to. But now we're processing thousands or hundreds of thousands of bits of information per second. But if the communicative exponential curve is increasing, eventually that's going to go into the millions or tens of millions or billions of bits of information. And at that point, what do? Do you just are you in like a virtual reality where your physical body is processing information and also your virtual reality extension of yourself is processing information?
I would say at one point, yeah, it's gonna get weird like that. And then there's probably some people are gonna have to make the decision where instead of maybe it's through the neural link or whatever that they're processing so much information. I think that if you scale it back, like in a Nietzsche perspective, right? Like he had a lot of ideas and he had a lot of stuff going on in his head, but a lot of it was kind of like an inside thing. And that's one thing I believe too, is like for the most part, basically any answer or question or any piece of information is like kind of already inside of you, like whether it's in the unconscious or like however it works. I don't know. Something's in there though. Something's in there. And there's it's a Musashi quote, or it's like this guy Musashi said, and he goes, from one thing, learn 10,000 things. And that's the via negativa, so don't learn 10,000 things to learn 10,000 things. Look at one single thing and think about it for so long that you learn 10,000 things, right? So then we're going to have these group of people that are like so fucking like amped up and like charged up with all this like processing and shit. And then there's going to be another group of people that is going to have to completely like say no to that.